Hello and welcome! Today I have been requested to review the LEGO Star Wars games on the Game Boy Advance. Now, I've been a fan of the Traveler's Tales LEGO Star Wars games since I first played LEGO Star Wars 2 on the original Nintendo DS. And while many are quick to point out its flaws and criticize it for its many bugs, I was always impressed with how Amaze Entertainment, who was once called Kryptonite Games, was able to make it feel like a proper LEGO Star Wars game. And since Kryptonite also made the Game Boy Advance games, I was rather looking forward to playing them. Today's video is sponsored by 16-Bit Store. At 16-Bit, we pride ourselves in our designs and the quality of our printed products. From our display stands to our styluses, our cases, shells, and more. Explore our selection at 16bitstore.com today and get 15% off your next order with offer code 16bitreview when you order 2 or more items. Starting up LEGO Star Wars, I knew I was going to be in for a bit of a treat. This is a Game Boy Advance era licensed game based on a 3D game. Corners were going to get cut, features were obviously going to go missing, and changes had to be made to make the game work on a portable system. This was just a matter of course, a standard practice for our time. Just take a look at SpongeBob and Spyro from this era. Starting up LEGO Star Wars, I was thankfully greeted with an isometric 2D platformer with pre-rendered sprites and a slideshows for cutscenes. Visually, it's not bad, but the game issues are already starting to show, and I've barely started episode 1. Where's Qui-Gon? Is the first level seriously just Obi-Wan? Wait, it is! Okay, perhaps multiple playable characters were too much for the Game Boy Advance? I find that hard to believe, but thankfully the combat isn't too difficult, and the level itself was a fun introduction, I think. However, there were so many distracting changes that I had to keep reminding myself that yes, this was supposed to be a port of Traveler's Tales LEGO Star Wars games, and not, like I'd say, a Bionicles game thrown on here with LEGO Star Wars paint. And honestly, my opinions of the games just got worse and worse as I started playing through it. And Jar Jar sadly wasn't the cause this time. Qui-Gon finally showed up in level 2, and here we are introduced to the terrible platforming, which I just honestly gave up on. And oh yeah, when you lose all of your lives, you restart the same stage again. And you have to replay through it again and again and again until you get it right. And there's no way to know where a checkpoint is. As I struggled to find any positive points, it began to dawn on me that this was not a LEGO Star Wars game. This was a Star Wars game with a LEGO theme and nothing more. And if the Game Boy Advance wasn't able to handle a proper LEGO Star Wars game, then it's understandable that compromises had to be made. Get to you in a second. But what is here isn't good nor fun, no matter what angle you try to look at it with. While on a technical level, it's mechanically fine and visually good, Kryptonite Games fails to keep the spirit of both Star Wars and LEGO alive here. There's just too many things that are just missing, from little details like the LEGO model from Episode 1's Obi-Wan was used in Episodes 2 and 3, to major issues like plot points are being completely cut out, to the point where in Star Wars Episode 2 Attack of the Clones, there were no clones, or Kamino, just Geonosis. As a game, it's flawed too, since the difficulty ramps up with no natural or logical progression. Blaster heroes have basically no auto aim at all, and the entire level resets if you die, meaning you are forced to replay grueling gauntlets until you get lucky enough to avoid enough damage and finally complete the stage. It got to the point in sheer frustration that I was about to quit in episode 3 due to the enemies taking out half of your health with just a single attack. And with no reward for exploration or anything else, the need to replay this game is just gone. This is by far the worst experience I have ever had with a LEGO Star Wars game. So to say my expectations weren't high when I slotted in LEGO Star Wars 2 would be a bit of an understatement, since it too was made by Kryptonite Games, now Amaze Entertainment. But I'd like to give it a chance, since it was the reason I even picked up and wanted to at least see what LEGO Star Wars was like. Wait, what's this? Blaster heroes that don't suck? A plot that actually follows the movies? Relevant in-game cinematics? In a hub world? Why was I made to suffer when this game was here the entire time? I mean, this game is still flawed and by no means a good experience since it uses the first game as its backbone. But at least it remembers it's a goddamn kids game, so it doesn't punish the player if they die. You just simply respawn where you last got hit. Plus the game shows multiple playable characters on the screen at the same time. It's not perfect, but this was the compromise game that I was hoping LEGO Star Wars was going to be. While its levels are different and structured to work on the Game Boy Advance, the levels and designs are here to at least encourage exploration and replayability. Hey look, there's actually mini kits here with locked character gates and just like it is in the console game. There's even an extras menu and so many things which are present in Traveler's Tales games. But despite all the things that this game does do right, I can actually call this a port of the console games. What it does wrong still really stands out. For some reason, while episode 4 is well balanced, well polished, and actually feels complete, episodes 5 and 6 feels rushed and can either be beaten in minutes or recycle so many assets that it's just confusing why they made it this way. The game has performance issues in the latter levels, and boss fights just are laughably easy as they were in the first game. While LEGO Star Wars 2 does show us that LEGO Star Wars with some creative liveries can be ported to the Game Boy Advance, it makes me wonder if it should have been. None of these games are any good, and for me was a harsh reminder of a bygone era of licensed portable games which were quickly thrown together and rushed out to meet deadlines.
And ultimately, that's what these games were. Rushed out licensed games that were made just to meet a corporate mandate. They weren't good because they had to be developed on a time and monetary budget. And Kryptonite, back in the late 2000, early 2005, were cranking game after game after game for the Game Boy Advance. And while it's no surprise that these games weren't good, I feel as though if Kryptonite had more time and were able to put a little more polish to these titles, they would have been. So if for some asinine reason you really want to play the Game Boy Advance LEGO Star Wars games, just do yourself a favor and get LEGO Star Wars 2. But in my humble opinion, you should probably skip both of these games and just go straight to the Nintendo DS if you're looking for that mid-2000 licensed portable game experience and you don't want to end up ripping out your hair. The complete saga for the DS is a better game than these. But anyways, thank you ever so much for watching. I hope you have yourself a good day, and as always, take care.